Is now recovering the proceeds of crime and tainted property. We take a look at EOCO's mandate, especially focusing on the phenomenon of stolen vehicles, as Interpol flags Ghana as a major destination for this notorious cartel. We have EOCO here to tell us what we need to know and also answer some questions. And joining us this morning in the studio is Leo Anthony Siama, Head Legal Prosecution. You find him Head Legal and Prosecution, and you'll find him at EOCO. Leo, which one do you like to be called, Leo or Anthony? Leo is fine. Thank you for joining us. It's been a very busy period for you since that report came up. I see that you've been very vocal and trying to caution people and also help people understand your mandate. But let us understand generally what the situation gets like and what exactly you're dealing with. Maybe the numbers, and from which year did you start all this checking in?
Good morning to all listeners out there. We are always grateful to have opportunities like this to speak on these platforms to disseminate information that we've gathered in the course of our investigations, as is provided in our enabling instruments. That's the Economic and Organized Crime Act of 2010, Act 804. We have always known or realized that stolen vehicles have been in Ghana. However, this whole operations or journey started somewhere in 2022, where in collaboration with our foreign partners, particularly the FBI and the Royal Mounted Canadian Police, we initiated attempts to recover some of these vehicles. Initially, they shared with us intelligence report containing about 300 vehicles, a database of about 300 vehicles that we suspected to be stolen. Nigeria has a similar operation that is going on in terms of the recovery. So somewhere around ending of the year 2022, we embarked on the first major operation to recover these vehicles. The operation itself was a huge success as compared to the other operations that have been held across the West African coast, and concerning the two major countries, that's Ghana and Nigeria. We recovered about between 60 and 66 vehicles that particular day, which was above let me say, the minimum or the maximum that we had set, because operationally we thought we would recover 15, 16 cars on that particular day, but we turned up getting over 60. And investigations continued thereafter. So again, in line with EOCO's mandate to recover the proceeds of crime, anytime we have a person of interest concerning an active investigation, we also run what we call parallel financial investigations, which means that we commence the tracing and tracking of assets belonging to that person immediately upon the commencement of the investigation. We do not want to wait until the person is convicted 2-3 years after a case is initiated to commence that. The danger is that by the time that we start tracing after a conviction 2-3 years after a case is initiated, a person may dissipate or alienate the properties or the assets. So in line with this, we started also recovering cars, mostly vehicles or luxury vehicles when people come in our purview when it comes to investigations. Now, what we noticed is that offhand, I would say 70 to 80% of the vehicles that we retrieved in such cases as well turned up to be stolen. And these vehicles were not or did not even form part of the original 300 list. So that told us, since then we have recovered an additional, let's say between 30 to 45 vehicles, taking the number well over 100 vehicles since 2022. So almost immediately we came to the realization that we have a bigger problem than we are dealing with. So since then we have taken steps in line with our mandate to disseminate these information that we have gathered in our investigations and let the general public know what exactly we are dealing with.
As of today, now you're giving us the fair idea since 2022, but as of today, since you started this current operation, how many cars have you recovered, I should say, recovered?
We have retrieved, I believe in total, roughly between 100 and 115, 120 vehicles.
Okay.
In our custody. We are taking steps, especially the vehicles that are coming from Canada and the US. We are taking steps to repatriate the vehicles in line with a formal request by the victims in the US. So what happens is that when the vehicles are stolen, the victims, when they find out about it in terms of the destination of the vehicle, they make formal requests through our foreign partners, the FBI and the Royal Mounted Police of Canada, for their vehicles. In certain cases, because the cars are registered under insurance programs there, the insurance pays off the owners or the victims, and then the insurance company assumes the liability or takes up the position as the victims, more or less. So they also make requests, and then we go to court through a civil process, and then we secure orders for the vehicles to be repatriated. In the case of the Canadians, the individuals pay for the repatriation of the vehicles themselves. So that's a double cost on such individuals. With the US, they have some support from their government in repatriating the vehicles.
Interesting. But how would I know that I am buying a stolen vehicle?
That's a very good question. So we have been doing this for the past 3 years now. If you take the date from 2022, so we have been able to gather some statistics or some facts that we generally share with the public when we are engaged on platforms like this. Now, there are a lot of red flags that come to mind when you are dealing with stolen vehicles. First of all, we have put out a list containing some of the vehicles that are prone to theft. We have named the Honda CR-V, which on our list is the highest number in terms of the vehicles that are being stolen. We have mentioned the Dodge Ram. We have mentioned the Ford F-150. We have mentioned the Range Rover. But in addition to that, you are also looking at the BMW X7 and X8 series. You are looking at the Mercedes, all those luxury brand of vehicles. And this is actually because these vehicles have a high-end value. If you look at the fact that a person who goes to steal this spends or expends almost no resources in getting these vehicles and selling them, it's a lucrative business. There's also a very high demand for the vehicles. This is one of the problems. And now, in terms of the other red flags, when you are purchasing such a vehicle and you question or you try to ask a lot of questions pertaining to the transaction history of the vehicle and you are getting an evasive seller, that should be a problem. That should be a red flag for you to quickly identify. Secondly, if you are requesting for the identity verification in terms of a valid identification for a seller and the person is withholding such information, that should also be a red flag. If you are inspecting documentation, for instance, a title or custom declaration documents, and you realize that VIN numbers are altered, tampered with, or in some cases, they are even deleted or try to alter them, these are also red flags. When you are doing a physical inspection of the vehicle as well, and you see vehicles, for instance, such as those without, how do you call them? The rear view mirror, which is where the GPS tracking device is actually kept. That should be a red flag. Okay. In some instances, you realize that the VIN number as contained in the vehicle, it comes on the vehicle, there are about 2 or 3 locations in the vehicle that you can inspect VIN numbers. I think there's one on the dashboard, there's one on the engine area, there's one around the seatbelt side. If those 3 VIN numbers are not consistent with each other, that should also be a red flag for you. Now, the cost of the vehicle is also imperative. If you look at the market value of a vehicle, which is about 400,000, 500,000 on the market, and someone is offering to sell it to you for 100,000, that should obviously be a red flag. So some of these things are very important for us to look at. Then also we have what do you call them?
This 400,000 you quoted is in dollars or cedis?
Dollars, cedis, whichever one, depending on the brand of the vehicle. If it's the extra luxury car, what I personally call the extra luxury cars, like a Maybach or
Lamborghini, maybe.
Yes, maybe a Lamborghini, maybe, and the market price is $500,000, and somebody's offering it to you for $100,000. Obviously, that should be a major red flag for you.
Interesting.
I mean, you're just telling us how you can avoid getting into such troubles, but one can really be very careful, right? Some people have mastered the craft and you can be so aware, but you just can make that mistake. And when you do, what do you do?
So first of all, if something like that happens, you should contact the authorities.
Which one of the authorities?
EOCO, Interpol, the primary authorities. You can. You also have to ensure that you are giving us details of the vehicle, details of the person you are conducting the transaction with, and at that point you stop the transaction. I'll take this opportunity to advise the public to take their time when they are negotiating some of these transactions, because time is of the essence. There's one particular bizarre case of a vehicle that was stolen, but at the time the purchaser was buying it, the status of the vehicle had not been declared as stolen. That was because the owner of the vehicle parked the vehicle at I think it was an airport, traveled to another state in the US for holidays, returned about a month, 3 weeks to a month and a half, only to find out that the vehicle was stolen. Then made a police report. By that time, the vehicle was able to be brought here, went through our customs and everything, again with some coalition from authorities, both from there and here, and the car was sold to an innocent person. But later on, when the original victim or the owner made a report, the car status changed. So yes, I do admit that there are certain lapses in terms of the mechanisms that should check this phenomenon.
Okay. You mentioned the CRV as one of the common or the most popular ones among these. Does it raise any question about the brand, or is it some sort of a cartel? And so when they identify a particular brand, they stick to it, they are able to sell these ones because there's a ready market for it, or they have a cartel that makes it easy to sell?
Well, it's a combination of both. It's a combination of both. I believe with our investigations, you realize that some vehicles are easier to steal as compared to others. Because if you look at the Ford F-150, for instance, there are a couple of them that we recovered during our process that have bullet holes in them. So it tells you that there was some violence in trying to forcefully take the vehicle. Now, if you look at the CRV, for instance, that is, I've been told by my officers in the office, especially those with the mechanics, that they come with certain features. The Touring comes with a less consumption in terms of fuel. So if you are going to buy a vehicle in Ghana with all our issues, that's one of the vehicles you should be looking at. And it comes with a certain level of luxury as well. So there's a high demand. The industry is also very lucrative for it. So these are some of the factors. And again, like you suggested, there are cartels there that specialize in this. And because they realize that there's a lucrative market and there's a high demand for it, they go for those.
How easy or difficult is it for EOCO to identify these cartels?
Very difficult. It's very difficult. You are dealing with forged documents. You are dealing with falsification of documents, alterations, and in most of these cases, the people are almost faceless. Or a person walks up to a garage, buys a vehicle, the garage owner or the dealer is unable to ascertain who they were dealing with or buying the car from. So it makes it difficult. However, in collaboration with our partners, we are beginning to find our feet in terms of what these cartels look like. So there are ongoing prosecutions over there, and eventually it will boil down here, because our laws are clear. Under Section 147 of Act 29, which is the criminal code, dishonestly receiving is a criminal offense.
But what if the person doesn't know that it's stolen? How would that be dishonestly receiving?
Yes, I was hoping you come to that. It will amount to dishonestly receiving if you do not take the steps to conduct the necessary due diligence that is important for you to undertake before buying a vehicle. Because you cannot say that because, for instance, I've heard some dealers and some commentary on the fact that, but I paid customs duty. The car came through customs. No, it doesn't work like that. You cannot, for instance, say, and I'm sorry I'm having to use this kind of comparison, but if a baby is stolen from a mother in a hospital, you don't say because you went to the social welfare and you were able to complete an adoption, the baby is yours. It doesn't work that way. The interest in the property still belongs to the original owner, irrespective of the documentation that covers the vehicle if it ultimately gets to you. That's why there's an obligation on you by law to exhaust all the due diligence procedures that you can. So you look at the red flags, you exhaust them. Once you exhaust the red flags, then you move on to the others. So, for instance, there are a couple of sites that allow you to check history of vehicles. I think there's Carfax, there's the National Insurance Crime Bureau from the US. You can check a vehicle transaction history, the VIN number to check the status, even though those ones are not comprehensive. However, when you come to Interpol or you go to EOCO, we have the stolen motor vehicle, SMV database or platform, where we are able to ascertain whether or not a vehicle has been stolen. So the due diligence obligation is on you, because there's a legal maxim that nemo dat, which means that
you can't give what you don't have.
You can't give what you don't have. So if a thief takes a vehicle and transfers to you, nothing comes to you.
So you talk about forged documents and all of that. Between the origin, the home where the vehicles will come from, and here where the final consumer may be, where does the forging of the documents happen most?
It comes from both sides. It comes from you need some you need a number of documents to be able to transfer a vehicle here, and this is where we also believe that the cartels have connections or contacts at the ports outside as well as having ports here, because you should not be able to transfer such vehicles with inadequate documentation here. So that points out to the fact that there's some form of collusion there as well. So I'm not going to put the blame all on us here and say that our customs or our port authorities are culpable in this alone. No, it's a dual problem.
So there's a little over 100 vehicles that you've been able to retrieve. Have you been able to discover the faces behind it? Or is it also quite difficult?
That is very difficult, especially because these crimes are committed in the U.S. But as and when we receive updates as to what has gone on in one particular case, quite recently someone was convicted there and is serving jail time for the theft of a vehicle.
So for us here in Ghana, if we retrieve a car from you, the maximum is that you're taking the car back, or if there's any payment that the person is supposed to pay, they will, but they don't particularly, it's not like criminal. You don't subject the person through criminal procedure or what?
It is a criminal act. Dishonestly receiving, and I'm going to explain that. Our courts in several decisions have expanded or made us know that even the mere possession of such an asset amounts to dishonestly receiving. And dishonestly receiving is a predicate offense for money laundering. So immediately you are looking at jail time yourself. That's if you don't conduct your due diligence. But if you conduct your due diligence and it comes up, for example, the example I just gave about the man that traveled and his car was shipped and it took a time, with that one, the person went to Interpol. The car at the time did not have the status as stolen. So with someone like that, he can go with clean hands, and obviously we cannot take someone like that to court and charge the person criminally. But for you, the person that does not exhaust that arm of the due diligence, you are prone to a criminal action in terms of you being prosecuted. In addition to that, you lose your money. If you have insured that car, for instance, under a comprehensive insurance policy, the insurance companies are not going to pay. They're going to pay. And then you also do not have enough for you to go to court and secure and be able to have a cause of action against the person who sold such a vehicle to you, because the two of you are more or less colluding to commit a crime.
But we are trying to educate people who are yet to buy cars, right? Where do you have a lot of these stolen cars being sold through? Person to person or auction sites? Both.
You cannot pinpoint one area and say, no, we are unable to say that. Now, what we have realized is that the garages are culpable, individual car dealers are culpable, person to person, because a person can buy a car from a dealership, well, use the car for a couple of years, 1 year, and say, well, I'm not interested in anymore, and sell it to another person. It's still the same thing. It's not even about the destination or the source or in terms of where the car is being sold. The most important thing here is that the car is stolen. And once the car is stolen, it doesn't matter how it came through, where it came from, where it was sold from. The mandate of the Economic and Organized Crime Office is to retrieve that vehicle.
Interesting. I've been trying to check up on a vehicle here just to see what, but Are there free sites for one to check?
Yes, Carfax is a free site. The NIBC is also a free site. NICB is also a free site. However, these are not comprehensive sites. These are not comprehensive sites. If you want a comprehensive site, that's what I mentioned, the Interpol website, or you can go to their office or come to the EOCO office. Look, again, I was saying this on another platform the other day. It's actually better for you to expend maybe 50 cedis, 100 cedis checking the status of a vehicle than going through a transaction, paying thousands of Ghanaian cedis, and then ultimately losing the car because you have no cause of action because of your failure to conduct due diligence.
Let's open up the conversation a bit, getting into your mandate, because in this conversation we've heard so much about tainted property, proceeds from a crime. Let us understand what EOCO does with that, and what is tainted property. What the person watching us today wants to understand what that is, and how you even, shall I use, claim, reclaim, recover, retrieve.
Okay, so the EOCO mandate is spelled under sections 3 and 4, which contain the objectives of the office as well as the functions. And under it briefly or basically says that the office is set up to investigate, detect, and prevent organized crime, economic and organized crime, and the authority of the Attorney General of the Republic of Ghana prosecute these offenses, and then generally to facilitate the confiscation of proceeds of crime. Now, proceeds of crime are any asset that a person gets for himself or buys or purchases or comes into contact with in terms of ownership after that person has committed an unlawful act and or a serious offense. The EOCO Act also defines a serious offense under Section 74 as any offense that carries a minimum penalty of 12 months and above. That's where it underlines the predicate offense or the baseline offense for the money laundering. So our mandate is to ensure that any person who commits such an offense and has gained an asset, whether economic or financial, has to forfeit that asset via the forfeiture route or confiscation to the state.
So how do you determine if the property that I have is tainted or is proceeds from a crime? Maybe I have a python that's vomiting money. Will that be proceeds of crime or tainted?
Well, we don't, EOCO doesn't dabble in a metaphysical spiritual matters. We deal with hard facts. So if a person is under investigation for any criminal offense, what we do, like I mentioned, is we conduct what we call parallel financial investigations.
Please say that again.
Parallel financial investigations.
Okay.
That means we are tracing the asset. Basically, what that means is that we are conducting asset tracing of the properties. So if we subject your bank analysis to scrutiny and analysis, we will be able to find out that if you took, say, 50 million from the Ghanaian state or from 50 million from any criminal enterprise, we should be able to tell in terms of the transaction history where that money went. So if we see a withdrawal of about 3 million Ghana cedis and it translates into a purchase of, let's say, a Lamborghini for a similar amount, reasonably, we should infer that it's the proceeds of that 50 million. Part of the proceeds from that 50 million is what you used to purchase the car. So that's how we trace, one way of tracing assets. At times, tracing the assets may be difficult in terms of the complexities involved in the ownership structures that are around in the country. Aside that, we also have we also have what we call the, I've spoken about the parallel financial crime investigations, and then at times we mostly rely on informants to come and tell us. So they come and tell, because this is very, very important because of the ownership structures that I was talking about. A person can take money from the state, buy properties in the name of his relatives and things, and because there's no financial documentation in terms of the transaction, it's difficult for us to be able to trace. So we deal with informants, we use intelligence, we gather intelligence over the course of the investigations, and some of these things come up, and then we pursue. So if we realize that such a person gives money to this relative, then we can make a reasonable inference.
Okay.
From that.
In this investigation, the duty will lie on you, or you can compel me to explain.
Yes, we can compel you to explain, and we have a section 19 of the EOCO Act that gives the executive director of the Economic and Organized Crime Office powers to invite you to the office to answer to documents or investigations that we are conducting. So we give you a chance to come forward and then make our inquiries.
So is that what you applied in the current circumstance, one that I don't want to mention names, but you know?
Obviously, yes. Again, we at EOCO try and exhibiting or pursuing our professionalism not to make investigations about individuals for it to look like it's a witch hunt. We go fairly. So there's a pragmatic step in terms of the investigations that we take. One of the first points of call is to write a letter to you, inviting you to come and speak to matters under Section 19. Because that's the power that enables the executive director to invite you to come and speak to matters. If that fails, most of the time we do follow-up calls, because most of the time investigations at that point would have generated the phone numbers or contact details of the person of interest. When we exhaust that as well, then we explore other options. If it's an arrest, then we go for it.
So
but when it comes to invite, we hear about inhumane conditions you put these people through. If you've invited someone, a person of interest, why put him or her through inhumane treatment? I
want to place on record right here at this point that nobody or no one who has ever come to EOCO can complain about being treated inhumanely. Like I said, one of our ideals is the professionalism that we exhibit, because you are also dealing with a certain high-profile individuals. So that kind of accusations cannot be leveled or proved against an entity like the Economic and Organized Crime Office. What happens is that when granting bail or dealing with an arrested person, you grant the bail amount commensurate with the offense that has been created or committed. So if a person steals an amount of, again, 50 million Ghana cedis, we cannot obviously go and give the person 500 cedi bail or 50,000 cedi bail, because if the person absconds, then we have a problem. So the bail amount is always given. And most of the lawyers that are defense lawyers that bring these people know, if the bail sums are too high, they have the option of going to court to have it reviewed. And nobody in recent times has done that. They've all come forward and we have negotiated bail terms. When I say negotiated bail terms, we grant the bail, they come, bring their sureties, we do our surety inspections, we look at where the sureties live, ensure that the person of interest that the surety is coming to bail would be able to make that person available when we require the person for further investigations. So it's not like we are abusing anybody's rights or we are subjecting people to inhumane treatment. I've even heard commentary that the EOCO cells is one of the most comfortable to actually be in.
Really?
So, yes.
That's not a story.
Can you confirm it? Is it?
I can't confirm. I have seen other cells. I have seen the other cells that in this country. I've seen our cells. And I can tell you, if you've ever had the chance of talking to anybody who has had the chance of being in our cells and being in the cells of other institutions, you can ask them where they prefer.
If you're inviting me, why put me in a cell?
No. So let me distinguish between the two. When we invite you and you come, that's one thing. We don't necessarily have to arrest a person when we are conducting investigations. It depends on the nature of the crime, and it's determined on a case-by-case basis. If a person is invited to come and speak to matters, and the person comes and provides what we need to further our investigations, there's no need arresting the person. However, if the nature of the offense is such that we have conducted investigations and we have decided or realized that this case is one that has to go to court, then we have to continue with the process. So we arrest and then grant bail. It is then up to you, the person of interest, with collaboration with the lawyers as the case may be, to meet the bail conditions. If you're unable to meet the bail conditions, the law enables us to restrict your movement until that is done.
Okay. But when you're setting bail terms, what do you consider? Because if you arrest me, for example, and you say, bring 3 grounded properties, I mean, what's the motivation behind that? Well, that you expected I should have 3 properties in my name?
Okay, we never tell persons of interest to bring 3 properties. Okay. It's not done that way. And the reason being that we are already under the impression especially with the cases that we investigate, that you have taken the state's assets or the state's money and you have purchased those assets, indirectly or directly or indirectly, those assets already belong to the state. So we will not ever ask you to use your assets or bring 3 assets. No. What we want to do, or what we try to do, is that when the sureties are coming forward to stand in as sureties for the prospective or the person of interest, we want to know where the sureties live. We want to know that the surety is a person of means, especially in relating to the amount of the bill term set. Because the idea is that if the person becomes a flight risk and the person absconds from the jurisdiction and we can no longer find the person to continue our investigations, we will have to fall on someone to pay that 50 million in terms of the bill conditions. And we do what we call a streetment. So we street the bond on the sureties. So that's why it's important for us to know that, well, this person who is standing as surety for a person of interest has the means to pay the amount. So when we ask you to bring your documents or land documents, we want to see, how do you call them? We want to see, for instance, proof of ownership, that you actually own the property you are claiming. We will not take the chances of just you coming, signing documents and going, and then we will later realize that you live in a rented apartment and face difficulties in streeting the bond.
So you're saying it's not true that you asked, for example, is new. So you asked Paul Adomotri to produce properties in his own name.
EOCO has not been investigating Paul Adomotri, as far as I'm concerned. That's the Office of the Special Prosecutor. We will not.
That's the SP. It's true.
Okay. So two questions for you. We'll talk about bail variations. So when a person is, if you grant a person the bail bond and it's too much, they apply to court for the variation. Does the EOCO mandate, do you have the power to vary?
Yes.
You have the power to vary?
Yes.
Right, okay. And is this case by case, or the Act as well provides the category in which you can, is there any form of discretion at all?
Well, I would not call it discretion necessarily. We are guided by the law. If a person of interest is arrested and investigations are ongoing, and we grant bail terms, and the person is unable to meet it on a case-by-case basis, we look at certain factors that we may use in reviewing it. Again, we are not in the habit of wanting to unnecessarily detain people, because look, when the truth is, when you detain such a person, you have to feed him, you have to look after him. And some of these people, because of the shame and everything, they are suicide risks. So that's another serious obligation on us. So we do our best to ensure that there's some fairness in the process. So we may review the bail conditions depending on a couple of factors. If we're able to, for instance, trace more assets that you have used these stolen funds to get, that would be a factor, because the most important thing for us is to recover the proceeds of crime. So once we are recovering those, it becomes one of the things that we look at if we have to review the bail condition. Okay,
so the person decides to want to renegotiate with the EOCO, or they either apply to court for the variation. Yes. It's very dependent on the person and what they want to do. Or it is when they have engaged you and you say, no, I have a firm belief on this bail bond and how much it is the tune to, and so I'm not varying it. Then they proceed to court.
Again, it's on a case-by-case basis. We can grant the bail. You would see it firsthand and be like, well, I'm not comfortable with it, or we are not comfortable with it, we think it's absurd. You go to court, we do our battles in court, see what the court says, if the court reviews. And there are certain instances where we've actually gone to court on reviews and the court has rather enhanced it. Yes, we've had occasions like that. So it's again, on a case-by-case basis, depending on what the person of interest and his lawyers think.
But what will influence the court's decision in either to increase it or to reduce the bail term?
The nature of the offense is very important. Like I'm saying, the nature of the offense, the person being a flight risk. A flight risk means that the person has the capabilities of absconding and not coming. So the court also considers all these. And the provisions that regulate bail are contained in Act 30, the Criminal and Other Offences Procedure Act of 1960. So in the Section 96, it tells you what you must look at. The person must be, before you grant bail, you must ensure that the person is not a flight risk. The person will appear anytime they are needed for further investigations or pursuing the court process. The person has a place of abode. All those factors are very important. So the court will take into consideration all of these things before reviewing the bill. There are times when the court is not satisfied with these conditions. They rather enhance it.
What do you say to people who hear that, well, a person is not supposed to be kept beyond 48 hours after bail, and yet maybe they see that people are still in custody? What do you say to them? Is it that they don't want to go home? Is it that they've not gone to court to vary the bail? What exactly accounts for that?
I believe that from our position, the constitutional provisions are clear. When you arrest a person, if you are not going to proceed to court with the person, you release the person conditionally or unconditionally on terms. And if we grant you terms, that's more or less a release. It is up to you to meet the bail conditions for us to effect the release.
At the time that a person has not met the bail conditions, do you then now proceed to court if you're going to keep them beyond the 48 hours?
We don't. Once we have granted the bail, we have dispensed with our duties. Yes, I know there's a school of thought that believes that it should not be so. And I think there are a couple of cases at the Supreme Court now that are challenging that. So we'll see how the laws up there.
The theory that says that, after 48 hours, if the person has not met the bail condition, you should proceed to court.
No, we should release them.
You should release them.
Proceed to court, but we have a different interpretation because
the laws are not clear on that side of it.
I don't think the laws are not clear. I think the laws are very clear. You either release the person conditionally or unconditionally on terms. So if we release you on terms, we are releasing you on terms, and we've given you the terms under which you should be released. You should be released. The things that you have to do. So for instance, we even add that we ensure your surety should ensure that you report a number of times in a week or something like that. So,
well, if the Supreme Court decides to become law, so that will be the benchmark on which then.
Well, that binds us all.
What's the latest on Chairman Wontumi?
Well, that's an active investigation. It's still ongoing, so I'm unable to give further details of ongoing investigations as it may prejudice our other line of inquiries.
Are you dealing with cybercrime, and is it quite prevalent currently?
Yes, very, very important. Cybercrime is one of, if not the biggest of our problems now, and probably the fastest growing. Because now, the point too is, every criminal activity that goes on now has an element of cybercrime in it. Because you take someone's phone, you conduct a forensic analysis of it or extractions, you realize there are trails in terms of the crime itself. So cybercrime is a big deal. It's a big deal. We are trying to also do some education on that at another platform. We'll take the opportunity to let the public know what we have found as well and the things to look out for, just as we are doing with the stolen vehicle issue.
Some days ago, I learned a new term called hawala. Have you heard about it?
Yes.
It's a slang term in you've heard about it.
Yes.
Is it a challenge? Are you dealing? Is this something that you're faced with?
Yes, this is actually not a new phenomenon. Hawala has been there. Well, I have known about hawala for more than 10.
Good for
years.
you because of your work.
Yes, because of my work, obviously. But it's a system of the transfer of money that the perpetrators try to avoid. First of all, bank transactions, avoid taxes, and to ensure that there is no audit trail in terms of the transfers that they conduct. So what will usually happen is that a person is resident in another jurisdiction, a call is, if I want to send money, a call is placed, my person goes to the person there, the other dealer there, takes the money from them, I pay the dealer's partner here. So there's no formal trace.
That must be hard for you if you have to trace crime.
Very, very, very hard. Very, very, very hard. So again, these are some of the things that we'll be making public in our subsequent engagements.
What legal framework guides your effort to recover proceeds of crime?
Okay. So again, Enabling Instrument Act 804, which is the Economic and Organized Crime Act, the Anti-Money Laundering Act of 2020, Act 1044, Act 30 actually, 1960. Restitution. There's a provision in Act 30 that talks about restitution. Now, this is very important because in the conduct of our investigations, we also find properties or assets that belong to persons of interest. And in some of the cases, these assets were acquired before the criminal offense was committed. However, However, in line with restitution, right, if we are able to or we are unable to find any assets in the person's name and the person is convicted of these criminal offenses, automatically the court will make an order for restitution. So a certain amount of money has to be paid for the crime that the person has committed. So we fall on some of these properties that we have identified during the investigative process, even though they may not necessarily be proceeds of crime, and we fall on that to execute the restitution order.
How are we balancing the rights of people, considering random stops and checking cars, for example? Driving my small Kia Rio and then I'm stopped because
They want to check.
Yeah, how are you balancing?
Again, this is okay. So I'll take this opportunity to address two issues here because of this question. First of all, EOCO does not do random stops. It's a misconception out there. Maybe some other institution. So I will not speak on it because it's outside my purview. But EOCO does not do stops. EOCO has a database first of all. That's the first bit. We also have our parallel investigations when someone comes in as a person of interest in an investigation. We are able to trace, track, and locate where the properties are, then proceed to recover, restrain, and most likely repatriate that. That's the first bit. So we don't do any of the stopping people in traffic and no, we don't do any of that. Secondly, it has come to our attention that some unscrupulous people are taking advantage of these EOCO recoveries and going to people's houses and taking their car under the pretext that is stolen. If such a person comes to you, ensure that the person has proof of identity. EOCO is not in the business of sending individuals to recover vehicles. We send teams, and teams are geared to visibly show that EOCO is actually here.
What shall I see?
That you will see a vest. You will see a vest. Not only that, you should be able to identify them by them showing you their ID cards. If you are still not convinced, I'll give our phone numbers. You can call 0547 419 419, 0547 419 419.
You have an interesting number.
Thank you. You can call that number and verify if EOCO has sent anyone for any operation to recover anything.
Okay. So these people that come to you, based on the information, they are protected, right?
Yes.
Interpol.
Yes.
They're protected with the Whistleblowers
Definitely.
Act or what?
Yes. Again, it depends on how you come. If you come under the Whistleblowers Act, that's a different regime altogether. That means that you are entitled to a certain percentage of all recoveries that EOCO makes in line with the information that you have volunteered. We also have very good citizens that volunteer information, and we have an obligation to protect you under the laws. We also have what we call the Witness Protection Act. There is a Witness Protection Act in Ghana that allows us to hide or prevent people like this from being known. So there are lots of laws and regulations that allow us to do
Leo, have you heard about Rambo-style arrest in this country?
Well,
that has been widely associated.
It's something that I've heard, but that is not true. Again, I don't know why that misconception is out there, because
what are you doing? What are you not doing right then? Because
we have never. I have just taken us through the pragmatic approaches that we use in inviting people. There's first of all a formal invitation.
We're talking about the Rambo style.
We have never. Yes.
The narration is that he got out of the CID and then all of a sudden your cars came, put him in the car, and then you.
But the narration
held him away.
True.
Really?
That's not true.
Can the nature of the crime as well amount to Rambo-style arrest?
No, we do not. I want to put on record again. We do not do Rambo-style arrest.
How did you pick up on
it? It is not in our interest, because you see, the very nature or the very idea of a Rambo-style arrest, in my opinion, right, tells us that it can result in violence. What's the point in resorting to violence that would end up in the loss of lives and property?
What do you think people want to say that they're saying Rambo style? What's the accurate way of what's the operation like for you?
I have no idea.
No, for EOCO, if you invite the person or the nature of the crime amounts to the fact that you must arrest the person, how is it done?
It's done with the utmost respect. I have led investigative teams on my own to go and arrest people, and we get there, the person has her children or their children there. We don't arrest in front of the children. We invite the person out, we talk to the person, we are here because of this, we are here to arrest you, your children are here, we don't want to do anything that will traumatize them for the rest of their lives. And most of the time, the people come out with us. And the chairman won't mean when it just happens, or unfortunately that it was outside. So people just gave interpretations to it. But it was never, he willingly came to our office with his lawyer. It was
The
never
man on his own?
Yes, it was
You
never
didn't pick him up from the CID headquarters?
You see, say pick him up. That's where I have a problem.
How did you do it? Because that's what we're told. We just want clarification.
We escorted him to the
Okay, all right. How did you escort him?
with
Escorts?
Escorts. His lawyer agreed to bring him, produce him, and an investigation that we're conducting.
Okay.
And he drove, our cars drove by him, and we came to the office. He was not whisked.
There was no cuff.
He was not. He drove himself.
He drove himself.
He drove himself. I wonder why this is not in the public. He drove himself.
Your cars came to guide him.
Our cars came and guided him and ensured that.
Provided escort.
Yes, provided an escort.
Okay. Thank you very much. Leo Anthony Siama is head legal and prosecutions at EOCO. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. I'm grateful.
This is still the AM show. We'll take a break here. We will be back with other interactions here with MFA Adeti.